Welcome back to Biz First in Focus. We're in conversation with Travis Gomez and Nimesha Jayakodi of Frontier Research. We're discussing the government's economic reform agenda, the new taxes, the banking sector. Nimesha, when we left off, we were talking about the withholding tax that has been imposed on savings and fixed deposits. This has been a cause for concern for many people in the general, among the general public. Is this a normal sort of increase? Is this a normalization of an area that was undertaxed, or is this an unwarranted imposition?
What I believe is that since the government has been looking at increasing or widening the tax base right throughout, without looking at specific sectors or specific industries, they've been trying to broad base the tax net. So I suppose this is one of the reasons that even the deposits have been taxed.
Travis, when talking about the economic growth in Sri Lanka, we've seen a slowdown, and last year, according to figures from the Department of Census and Statistics, last year with a growth rate of 3.1%, Sri Lanka recorded its lowest growth rate in 16 years. This government came in promising. In August 2015 at least, came in promising various economic reforms and liberalization that would kickstart growth, is what they said, generate employment and kickstart growth. Yet we've seen that the services sector has been the driver of economic growth, while others, agriculture industries, have been struggling to sort of get off the ground and take off, so to speak. Why is this?
Yeah, if you start with, say, the manufacturing sector, if you take last year's performance, it was, so if you take under manufacturing, if you take sectors like the consumer durables sector or like the motor sector, what we've been seeing is that a lot of the industries relating to consumption related ones were badly affected last year. So partly it was to do with some of the weather related impacts of the drought and things like that. So as a result of that, basically household income was lower. As a result, this consumption of durables and motor vehicles were affected. And also with motor vehicles, to add on to that, was basically the high tariffs that were maintained, as well as reducing the loan to value ratios for those motor vehicles. So that was something that sort of curbed the growth in those segments. So then if you take sort of like the agri sector, also similar impact. If you take the tea sector, it was also very much impacted by the reduction in the oil prices that were taking place. So as a result, because the impact that had on Middle East and a lot of the markets where our tea is being targeted at, they were also affected by that. So it's mainly been the service sector that has, particularly the banking sector, that has been showing some steady growth.
In the story of developed countries, we see a pattern. They go through a manufacturing boom before sort of reaching level of saturation, and then it becomes a more services-driven economy. Do you think that this is an anomaly when it comes to Sri Lanka, that in spite of being a lower middle-income country, which should, by all indicators, be more heavily focused on manufacturing industries, agriculture, etc., that we are an economy that is driven by services? Is this an anomaly?
So it's partly, I think, to do with in terms of our education structure and in terms of the sort of the sectors that people go into in the jobs market. So if you take our jobs market, I mean, there's a lot of job opportunities in, a lot of that is focused on the service sector. If you take IT, or whether it's accounting or the finance field, so it's partly to do with that as well, where it's because those are areas where we do have like a competitive advantage. So more recently, what we've been seeing is there's been a pickup in these KPO, BPO type of operations where Sri Lanka does have a advantage in. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing in terms of because I mean there are different viewpoints on it. So I mean the traditional, like the economic view, is that first you need to go through this sort of industrialization process where I mean once you sort of develop, once the economy has sort of developed to a certain stage, only then can you sort of go to this service transition to the service sector. Yeah, but in our case we've kind of sort of leapfrogged it to a certain extent, which is not necessarily a bad thing if you look at it from sort of like an environmental perspective, because when it comes to sort of like those industrialization and if you're going down that path, it's also kind of very costly in terms of the environment. So actually from our point of view, focusing a lot on service sector. So I mean the great opportunity we have now is with regard to the tourism sector. So that has a great potential for going forward to really develop the country, because if you take in terms of our foreign remittances, it's been coming down because of the situation that's been in the Middle East. So the contribution from that has been going down, while there's much more potential from the tourism segment to go down, so to go up. So
yes, and also one other reason could be the level of volatility in the agricultural sector that we can see with the related issues and things like that. So a lot of people, as Travis said, are moving into the service sector. If you ask a farmer's son whether he would want to continue farming, it would probably be a no. He would like a more stable job where he can get a monthly salary, a fixed salary for his effort. And of course the other reason is also that the cheap labor is really not something that we can see in Sri Lanka anymore. Nor is, if you look at the construction sector, even in the construction sector, the garment sector, finding labor has become very difficult. The type of job that these sectors offer are probably not considered as dignified as working in the service sector. So this is sort of the perception that people have been having and that people have been moving into. So this is the reason that probably the service sector has been
So do you think
growing.
that it's a good thing to have leapfrogged that industrialization and gone into services that grow? Is that a good thing? You said it was not necessarily a bad thing, but is it a good thing? Is there a positive to it?
Yeah, if you look at it, of course, what you need to look at is the overall growth and the overall prosperity. How well has the economy been accepting these? How well it has been growing? Are we doing the right thing in terms of connecting with the international or the global markets? So rather than looking at a specific sector, whether it's agriculture, manufacturing or service, if you can see what are the niche markets, niche industries where you can work on, even in the agricultural sector, if you look at the value-added products, it is something that globally which has a demand globally. So if you can get into these areas rather than segregating among these sectors, it could be a good thing, whether you're in the service sector, more in the service sector, or more in the agriculture and manufacturing sectors. You have to look at the niche markets.
Travis and Nimesha, thank you very much for taking time off your busy schedules and coming on Biz First in Focus. It's been a very enlightening and enriching discussion. So once again, thank you very much. Thank you, Nimesha, as well. That's our show for this evening. I'll see you again on Friday on the Review 360 at 9:30. Good night.